I love demons. I love summoning them, I love reading their descriptions, and I love drawing them too. One thing I've always wondered though is about fusion, specifically the Jacchio Manor, the Heretic Mansion, the Cathedral of Shadows, and their master, Mido. In Megaten, there's a few variations of this. In Persona, there's the Velvet Room with Igor and his attendants facilitating fusion and summoning. In Raido, there's Victor Frankenstein working his science to get you the fusions and summoning. But in mainline, you get this weird guy, Mido. We don't get a lot of explanation of who he is also. If I'm honest, the early versions of Mido, or at least the fusion guy you encounter, there's not much there. He's just the guy who facilitates the necessary function of the games. In Shin Megami Tensei Encyclopedia, this is what they say about him. The mystery of the House of Evil. It's no exaggeration to say that demon merging is one of the biggest attractions of the Shin Megami Tensei series. The Lord of the House of Evil is the one who performs the demon merging. There are many theories as to how they were formed, but it is likely that they are a group of people who learned the skill from a master or an educational institution, or that they share the skills through horizontal connections like a guild of the same profession. This is because it is extremely difficult to provide such a specialized technology as a uniform service. If we take the former theory, the person who could be mentioned as a master could be that old man who is in Sugamo prison, the combined master. So essentially this master, who we must assume is Mido, was the old man in Sugamo prison. That area is Gaian territory for essentially all of mainline. I just say this because Mido is very much chaotic aligned, according to the book at least. But if Mido was there in the prison, who was doing the fusions? Well, as it said, this could be a guild of some sort with a bunch of people all providing the same services, not unlike going to an armory or a shop. But otherwise, this could be explained in the following two ways. Either they are also Mido, or they are ministers under the tutelage of Mido, aka that guild type thing that we're discussing. First, let's explore that first theory. In SMT4, we get Mido as an AI. This is pretty unusual to say the least. When asking who he is, he simply says, "I am a man who got fascinated by demons and as a result, ended up as a digital entity." It's also important to note that you can get one quest from Mido in SMT4, where he asks you for help for his research. He wants to speak with Enoch, who was a human who fused with an angel, according to Mido. They don't tell you who he wants you to fuse, but the answer is Metatron, just in case you didn't know. This literally gives you no new info about who he is, but now you know what to do. In the sequel, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse or Final, we get nothing really substantial, but in the art book for Final, we get a sliver of info. We are told that Mido is among the Ascended, Stephen and Saint Germain. He has exited the cycle of rebirth and thus can hear the great reason. Something we've seen Stephen do a few times is inexplicably appear and disappear. In regards to that idea, perhaps Mido just moves from different cathedrals to different cathedrals. I find that a little bit weird to consider, so let's look at an alternative. He's the master. That's something that he's literally called in other games. The cathedral or evil churches would logically function similar to the structure of a clergy maybe. Minister does come from that word meaning servant or attendant, and thus denotes a lesser status. Something we see going into Nocturne though is that he's now called the master. And logically, this is the man who was in the prison in SMT1, but not the actual cathedrals themselves. Something to note about the Mido art in Nocturne is the pose he has. It's something that ties into my consistent rants about Buddhism being integral to Nocturne and Megaten in general. One thing you can look at is his hand. It's a mudra. This mudra is called the Abaya Mudra, or the gesture of fearlessness. It's not exclusive to Buddhism, by the way, but it's hyper relevant to it. And I'd say that for me, it stands to reason that he was able to appear in Nocturne because by then he was ascended. Again, this is just my opinion, but hear me out. This gesture is used to dispel fear and garner divine protection. Something amazing to me personally is that this is a mudra often associated with Buddha. This is a pose you'll often see in a lot of standing Buddha art pieces. And with the logic of Nocturne itself, Mido can just teleport because, you know, the Amala exists in that game. I personally think both things are highly likely. whether it's multiple people that all function running under Mido, or that Mido could teleport to literally any of the cathedrals. He's either ascended by the start of SMT1 and able to do all sorts of things, or he garnered other people obsessed with his same love of demonology and fusion. And the standing position is really important in Buddhism, as the standing Buddha is the Buddha that has already reached nirvana and is going to teach. I just think that it's really interesting that in Nocturne we get confirmation that he's already a bodhisattva figure before we get that confirmation stated overtly in the SMT4 Apocalypse art book. So that's all well and good, but I want to get into the real world inspirations for Amido. In Conical Works Volume 3, we get some very interesting info. The owner of the facility that performs demon merging, after Archbishop Suzuki, or Kazunari Suzuki, who served as the creator of the demon fusion system in the early days of the series. The costume is reminiscent of Christian ceremonial dress, but the coloration is not included in the 6 colors of ceremonial dress: white, red, green, purple, black, or pink. This is meant to be a true expression of heresy. And the black sunglasses add to the weirdness. The black sunglasses add suspicion, and the white beard is meant to symbolize the long history of the series. Since he survived the Tokyo Conception, he may actually be a demon himself. So yeah, he's literally Kazunari Suzuki. If you're not familiar with who that is, look at my SMT tabletop RPG video, or just pay attention for the next few seconds. He designed the fusion system, helped with the spells and demon selection used in the original game. He wrote the story for Tokyo Apocalypse, the OVA, Gaiden Tensei, the Chain of Curse scenario for SMT Imagine, among many other things. Funny enough, his Twitter confirms quite literally who the Archbishop Suzuki is by him using Archbishop in his name on Twitter. I even found that he wears that funny hat like Mido. I looked through a lot of his social media, by the way, in the least creepy way possible, and I couldn't find any pictures of him wearing those little swimming goggles that are supposedly sunglasses. But considering that Okada and Conical wore very similar sunglasses, I'd imagine that he probably did too at that time. And that's Mido, I guess. I wish I had more to say, but honestly, it was something that no one really seems to care about, not even Atlas or otherwise. So it wasn't something that there was a lot of info out of outside of the Conical Works and SMT Encyclopedia. So did I miss anything? I was trying really hard to kind of figure out if there's any other things that I missed. I even played SMT4 for a few hours, just seeing if the dialogue changes at any point, and I didn't really see that. I did see something happen in Apocalypse, but only happens at the very, very end of the game, and it wasn't anything important. Personally, I think Mido is the most interesting of the fusion facilitating entities, and I kind of hope we see him again in SMT5, especially if it's a nice new high definition model, or at least as high definition as a terrible system like the Nintendo Switch can handle. Hope you guys enjoyed this little mini tiny break from Nocturne related content, but viewer beware, you're in for a scare. I'm going to be making more videos for Nocturne pretty soon, including an hour-long review of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. And if you're kind of tired of the Nocturne stuff, don't worry, I got other videos in the works. They're all coming. They're just gonna take a little while. The Creator Soejima Volume 2 should be out sometime before July. And, you know, I might try to do another couple of creator videos if I can get more information about other Atlas staff that aren't the big ones that I've already kind of covered. And you know what? If there are topics you want me to cover, you should just tell me in the comments, because, you know, I read the comments. I don't get like a crazy amount of them, so, you know, I literally read every single one. Just go ahead and tell me, oh, can you cover X? And then I'll be like, no. Anyway, and that's it for the video. Goodbye, fellow Megatenists.